DMT is one of the most unique disciplines in gymnastics. It consists of just 2 jumps, combined speed, power, and precision. Today I'm talking to a 3-times world medalist, including a silver medal at the World Games in 2025 in DMT. He was also crowned the European champion just a few weeks ago. Today I'm talking to Omo. We'll talk about the discipline as a whole, how he trains, and how he competes. I hope you enjoy. So what's been like your progression sort of like through the sport?
I started with Acro when I was about 7 years old, did that for about 3 years. Then I started DMT around 2016. And luckily the coach that came into my gym was the head national coach of the DMT thing. So I guess I got pretty lucky there. So I started that. I think within about a year, I was on the GB squad, did my first world championships. And then I think the year after that, growing pains and everything, I fell off a little bit. But then after that, back to world championships and being on the GB squad pretty much every year, obviously besides COVID. Yeah, that's been the journey, I guess.
So it would have been really early on that you actually got onto the World Championships. What was it like doing that so young?
Yeah, I think it was 2017 was my first World Championship. So I was 12 years old there. But yeah, it was like a surreal experience. I'd barely been doing this sport a year. And then now I've gone from, my Acro regional comps to a world stage. I didn't really know how to take everything in. But from what I can remember, I just enjoyed it, made friends with everyone that was there, did my best in the comp, didn't go very well. But obviously I didn't have much of an expectation because I was very new to the sport at the time. So I was just taking everything in.
Do you think that sort of experience has helped you over the years? Like that competition experience has now helped you?
Yeah, definitely. Because that year, all the, I think, regional comps, all the comps in the UK, they went very well for me. The way I planned, or my coach planned everything, I did exactly what I needed to. And then I go to the world stage and it doesn't go to plan. So it kind of just taught me that, obviously in these big events, it doesn't always go the way you want it to. So yeah, obviously it taught me how to deal with that and going forward to, I guess, expect the unexpected or just not think that everything's going to go my way 100% of the time. But I learned that fairly early on.
Can't always win.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Can't always win. So you've been described as sort of like a rising star in DMT. How would you feel about that label?
I mean, I'll take it. It's a nice label, I guess. Yeah, I guess I'm still pretty young. I'm 20, so I'll take the rising star title. I don't mind it, but I don't know. I just been doing my thing. I like doing flips, and DMT is a way for me to do that. So I just keep doing it and see what happens. If I get good results, cool. If I don't, at least I get to flip, I guess. That's how I see it.
Fair. So what have been some of the best moments for you in your career?
I guess the top ones are, the first one was World Games last year in Chengdu, China. Yeah, I was really looking forward to going to one, because it's China, and two, I'd done the previous World Games in 2022. And it went horrible. I messed up in prelims. I still qualified to the final, but then in the final I messed up again. And going back to redeem myself and getting a second place in the World Games that was a massive achievement for me. And then also this year, literally a couple of weeks ago, there was a European Championships. We came second as a team and I came first individually. So that competition, that's probably one of the best moments of my life, that competition. Biggest, proudest achievement.
And what was that whole competition experience like at Euros that have just been?
It was great. The team dynamic was amazing. Everyone liked each other. Everyone was getting along. Weather wasn't great, but we expected a bit more from Portugal, but it is what it is. But yeah, again, team dynamic was great. Enjoyed training, enjoyed chatting to everyone. And I guess because we had such a good friendship among the team, getting that second place medal in a team event meant a lot. We were all so gassed. And then the next day, being in the final, usually in the finals, I don't feel too much pressure because all the work's done. I've qualified to the competition. I've qualified to the finals. All I can do now is just do whatever I can. So yeah, not too much pressure, and then did what I needed to, and then ended up with a gold medal. So yeah, I was so gassed with that one.
Nice. I saw your post recently. It made it sound like it was, call it uncommon for you to stay on your feet 6 times. Yeah. What was different about Euros that made you
To be fair, it was a bit of a weird situation. So a bit of background context. I was meant to go off to Cirque du Soleil end of March, and I'd been talking to them back and forth for a good almost year. So contract signed, everything. In my head, the months before Euros, I wasn't going to Europe. I was going to be in Canada training for the Cirque. So going there, maybe a month max before, I found out that plans fell through. I wasn't going to go. So the prep leading up to Euros was weird. I was in a bit of a weird headspace, a bit of a training usually a couple months before you start to work out training to peak at the right time. But I had about a month to do that. So it's a bit of a weird thing. I was kind of just going into Euros, like, of course I wanted a medal, but I was like, I'm kind of just here right now. I'm just like living in the moment. I'm not really thinking too much. So that might have been part of it, not as stressed, not as, hyper focused on all these different things. I was kind of just there doing my flip, see what happens. And yeah, it just worked out.
So you mentioned there that you were thinking of going to go to Cirque. What about Cirque was drawing you to it?
So it goes back to, there's a guy who used to be on the GB team called Otis. And actually I was pretty good friends with him on the team. And he was just I was speaking to him just about, careers and stuff one time, and how, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, what I wanted to go into. And like he introduced, Cirque and stunt work to me. And because I'd heard of it, but I never really knew much about it. And then, he introduced me to it. He showed me stuff about it. And then like the next year he ended up going off to Cirque as well. So obviously I kept looking into it, and I just realized like, I just felt like I had to be there. Like it looked so fun. It looked like exactly what I wanted to do. So then, when I got to a point where I was fairly happy in my career, which was after World Games, I was like, I'm ready to go off to Cirque. I'm ready to do whatever. Then, I just contacted them, sorting some stuff out, and obviously I was meant to go. But
going to go then?
Yeah, I hope so, yeah. Like hopefully next year, some more opportunities arise. So, yeah.
So a bit on to sort of DMT as a whole. How would you describe DMT?
It's like when someone asks, like, what do I do? First, I always say trampolining. And then if they're like, oh, what about the Olympics? I'm like, okay, well, it's not in the Olympics. I do like this special version. And I say it's like a mix between vault and trampoline. Obviously, you run up, you do your jump, you do another jump, and then you land. It's like 2 trampolines like that. And then you run up, you do 2 flips, and then land, hopefully on your feet, not your face.
Sounds like you've had experience with both. So what makes it so difficult as a discipline?
I'd say it's out of like the tumbling and trampoline, and probably the more inconsistent one, because it's, you're throwing the 2 hardest tricks at this tiny little trampet, and there's not much width to it. So if you go a bit sideways, you're not going to make it to do the second skill, and obviously you've got to land the second skill as well. So I think it's the fact that it's so intense, it's so quick, and there's only 2 skills, so there's not much saving yourself in between, which I'd say makes it quite difficult. It's quite a lot on the body in a very short amount of time.
Obviously, it's not stopped you from doing some of the hardest skills that I think I've ever seen anyone do on trampoline, on a tumble track, on a fast track, anything. Well, A, how do you progress to that level? And B, how do you sort of balance the difficulty and the execution?
Firstly, I say growing up, to be fair, definitely focus more on the difficulty, because that's partly what I found fun. And also I was just scrappy to begin with. And my coach saw that I could do slightly more difficult skills, and it was better to focus on that at the time. And I guess as you grow up, you get a bit more powerful. You have the time in the air to clean out your skills and make the execution better. Yeah, in terms of progressing, usually most people will learn on like the trampoline to pit, or just normal trampoline, learn their bigger skills. And then once they're ready, they'll take it over in stages onto the DMT. Whether they got a DMT to pit, which luckily I had, which I think aided quite a lot. But if not, stack mats, learn the preps, learn everything. And then it's literally just once you're brave enough, you'll put it on and try it.
Fair enough. What's been one of the hardest skills for you to learn, and why was it difficult?
I guess the one I competed at Euros is the full and triple pike. So it's a dismount, backwards, full twist in, triple back in the pike position. I say it's difficult because I used to never really do a lot of pike skills. Like I didn't do pike triple back until last year, but I had done, full twist and triples for years. It was just something that, I don't know, I didn't really do, because I always found the landing quite difficult. But then adding a twist into that made it even more difficult. And there weren't many times that I would have needed to compete it, especially like in the in country competitions. It's just not that worth the risk to reward, I guess. But then obviously international competitions, if I can put it down, it's definitely worth it. So training for that was quite difficult. It needs a lot of technique, a lot of precision. Yeah, obviously once it pays off, you're gassed.
Of course. And it's the same with any new skill, I suppose, in any kind of gymnastics, I'm sure. So a bit of a different question. How do sort of the world level events, so World Games, World Championships, compare to things like European or even smaller internationals? How do you approach them differently?
I say mostly fairly like similar in terms of how you approach them. But the one thing with European Championships, it's very early in the year, Whereas usually the bigger ones are later in the year. So World Championships is in November. World Games is usually around August, but obviously Euro's just been, it's in April. So there's a World Championships every year, but Euros is every 2 years. So we'll finish World Champs, on this big high or big low. And then, sort of come off, you have your off season and everything. But then if there's a Euros the next year, you got to ramp quite quickly. You might have the winter off or whatever. You might not be training that much or as intently, but then you've got to build back up straight away for Euros. But obviously, if there's not Euros, you've got the whole year to build back up towards the World Championships again. Yeah, so every year that there's a Euros, it's quite a weird vibe because you got to, get into gear quite quickly during the year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another thing is that I've noticed a theme across a lot of different people that I've spoken to, and it's the 2023 Worlds in Birmingham, which I know you went to. What was that experience like? Because I spoke to Jaden Paddock, I spoke to Brownie Page, and spoke to Megan Keeley. They've all said it's like one of their highlights. What was it like for you?
Yeah, for sure. In terms of memories, one of like the best competitions I've been to. Obviously, it being in your home country, everyone could watch it, whereas like a live stream or people could just come down and watch it. So I guess it did feel like a bit more pressure. Like obviously whole crowd, most of the crowd is British. So whenever they see a British guy on competing, whenever they present, the crowd is roaring. And it's like, usually don't get that at World Championships. You have obviously the people from your team, but to have like the whole crowd surrounding just roaring is like, it's crazy to hear it. Like feel something in your chest when that happens. But yeah, other than that, it was a great experience. Obviously we didn't have to fly. We just took a train up to Birmingham, and yeah, it was just great. Good team again. One of my favorite competitions.
So I know that obviously there's the individual team, and then there's an all-around competition at things like World Championships. What are those like for you?
So I've only done one all-around competition, which was last year, and it's always done in points. So first place gets 10 points, second 8, third 6, and I think it's 5, 4, 3, 2, something like that. It's the same with the joint team, like the one discipline team final. Same scoring system. But I always feel like in those team competitions, it feels like more pressure than usual, because if you mess up, it's not just for you, it's for the team now. So it's a lot more pressure. But I feel like it also pays off more when you do well, because now you got the whole team celebrating, everyone's gassed. Yeah, I think the all around, I did that 2025. It wasn't the best competition before that. I think I did in prelims well. I messed up in Q2. I messed up in our normal team final, and then the all around came, and I kind of felt like it was my last chance to like redeem myself for that competition. And again, luckily I did. I got 10 points for the team, coming first in the group. So that felt good to not be leaving. It was in Spain, not be leaving Spain, with a bad experience. But like I ended it on a good note, and I was really happy with that. It was a good experience.
What's some of the hardest parts of training or competing at your level?
I'd say the what's it called? We call it like the volume phase of training. It's where a good maybe month or two before like a big competition, you're just loading as many passes as you can. You've got usually 2 or 3 passes, and you're just doing them over and over again, just doing as many as you can. And that's where it's difficult. Your body's aching. You're just like, you're not really focusing on how well you do the passes. It's just making sure you can do them. And it's just rough. Like on those sort of sessions, it's like, I don't know, you're kind of going crazy. You're just doing the same thing over and over again. And you're like, what am I even doing at this point? But yeah, I'd say that's what most people are like. Yeah, this is rough. But obviously you're doing it for it to pay off in the end. That's the worst part.
Nice. Fair enough. And I was speaking to Joe Fishburne recently. He's a team gym gymnast, ex-team gym gymnast. And he talks a lot about how adversity is a superpower, goes across schools preaching that. Basically saying that the tough times in sport, in life, get you to where you are. What sort of example can you find of that in your sport, in your life?
I guess, yeah, similarly to what I just said about the volume training, if it wasn't for, get consistency, then you're not going to be able to do it in competition. You're going to be able to do it all the time. And like I said, that's the toughest parts of training. And if you don't get through those toughest parts, you're not going to reap rewards. But also, I'd say similarly, what I said a while ago about like the circus, obviously I was like really put down by that, I was not in a happy place when that happened, but I guess everything happens for a reason. And then, a couple of weeks later, go out to Euros, get a gold medal. So I guess it is really like, if it's not for, the tough parts that are going to happen, then I don't know how the saying went, but I agree with whatever he said. It's true.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It was adversity is my superpower, is the message he's trying to get across. So where do you think you can still improve as an athlete? Because I imagine you're probably not going to go for too much longer if you're going into Cirque, but then also as a performer, as a person.
Yeah. I'd say definitely consistency is something I've always been trying to work on. You know, especially first couple of years as a senior, like I was trying all these big passes and they never stuck. But obviously growing up, training more and more, getting the consistency, I've been able to show what I've actually been doing in training for on a comp floor and, you know, had some good results from it. But yeah, 100% like consistency is the thing that I think everyone work in DMT, like everyone should be working on, because it's just such an inconsistent sport. But yeah, especially me, consistency is definitely what I'm always trying to work on all the time.
But you're probably going to have to get quite good at that when you're over at Cirque.
Exactly. Performing on the stage every day, you gotta be consistent. It's what you're getting paid to do. So.
Fair enough. Do you think DMT is getting the recognition it deserves?
I think it's starting to take off a bit more. Obviously, as a DMT gymnast myself, I think it should get all the recognition in the world. But, you know, it just doesn't work like that. But there are, you know, some people out there that are promoting the sport. There's one American guy, Thomas Mink. He's doing a very good job promoting it. He's doing all these videos, promoting different people and everything. He's doing a very good job. And there's Double Mini Trampoline. Obviously, as controversial as he is, he has made the sport more popular, I would say. He's got more eyes on it, but yeah, I always think it should get more recognition. It's getting up there. It's starting to get more eyes on it, which I'm happy with.
Fair enough. What about what he does is controversial? I spoke to Leo Westbrook. He said the same thing, but I never actually understood what the controversy was, I suppose.
I think it's just there have been like things he said on his, you know, stories and like just opinions he's had, and like the one thing that bugs me is like there's some of the biggest people out there, like, you know, Ruben Padilla. He's one of the American gymnasts, and like a lot of the American gymnasts, he doesn't post them. I think because there might have been like beef or something. I don't really know, but like, yeah, it's probably, he might have said something, like DMT World might have said something. They didn't agree with him. They might have like unfollowed him or whatever. And then now he just doesn't post them at all. And I'm thinking like, if you want to get the sport bigger and everything, like these are the best people in the world, and you're not posting anything about them. That's just, you know what I mean? If people are trying to get into the sport, they want to see who's the best, and you're not posting who's the best. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's my issue. Yeah.
Fair enough. That makes sense. But in a similar sort of vein, less so in terms of like recognition, but in terms of the sport itself, how do you think the sport can improve, potentially to get more recognition, but just one thing you could change?
I'd say it's how the competitions are run. I'd say DMT luckily is a bit faster paced than, say, trampoline, but it's still like, if you're like, we're in the arena for hours on competition days, and like it's our own sport, and it gets boring to watch because someone will go, judges will take, sometimes judges are quick, sometimes judges are taking 5 minutes, and you're just sitting there while nothing's going on. So if there was a way to, I guess, just make it a bit more entertaining, a bit more faster paced, you know, getting things done, I think, yeah, it would make it more entertaining. That's the main like frustrating thing about it, is that it can not be that viewer friendly sometimes, especially people don't understand what's going on. They've watched someone do their pass and they're waiting 5 minutes with nothing going on to then, yeah, that's my main issue.
Have you heard of Face Off?
Yes, I love Face Off, and they're doing everything right.
Do you think it would be something that you'd want to try?
I've done it in the past. I was part of the Bulldogs team. I'm still technically part of them, but I said to them that I was meant to be going to Cirque. So that's put me out of like the first few events. But hopefully later in the year, they can sub me in. But yeah, like the events I've been to, I went to watch the finals last year in Denmark. It was insane. One of the best things I've watched. And the ones I've been a part of, some of my favorite events I've been a part of, like they just know how to put on a show. And that is definitely something I wish, you know, DMT could learn from, I guess.
Do you think that the scores being a lot quicker in that helps?
Yeah, 100%. You know, they'll land and then bam, the score's up and fires everywhere. Like it's way more exciting to watch than waiting 5 minutes for a score on the screen.
Yeah. I think it's really cool. Like I've watched little bits and pieces here and there, Not watched like a show like the whole way through or anything, but it does look sick. I spoke recently with someone else, that I had on the podcast, but it wasn't actually recording when we were talking about it. It was about how well gymnasts know their sport. How well would you say you know DMT, like as in code wise, etc.?
Yeah. I'd say I know it like fairly well. Like I know most difficulties. Like if someone does a pass, I'll know what difficulty the pass is. I know the landing deductions kind of, but in terms of so the main thing I don't really know is execution. Like obviously I can see something and I was like, oh, that wasn't that good. Or I could see something and be like, oh, that was insane. But I don't know like exactly where the deductions are. But other than that, I'd say like I know the sport pretty well in terms of all the intricacies and everything.
Fair enough. Don't worry, I'm not going to test you. Do you think it's beneficial for you to know the sport well, like especially with like difficulties?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with the difficulties, you can work out what sort of scores yourself and other people are going to hit. That's something that actually happened at European Championships in terms of like subbing out different skills. In my the first pass of my final, I didn't know whether I was going to do either a tuck drift at the start or a pike drift. And it was depending on scores that other people got before me. And if there was a certain score, then I would do the tuck drift. Like if it was below a certain score, if it was above a certain score, then I do the pike drift. And it just gives you like the understanding of, see, it's my coaches that make the decision, but I know why they're making the decision and I'm involved in the decision. I understand how the sport works. So I think it's important in situations like that to know how the sport works and, why you might need to change certain things at certain times,
Cool.
essentially.
Yeah, that was all I really wanted to ask about it. The counterpoint, I suppose, was that if you don't know, this was with regards to aerobics, so it's a little bit different, and they don't get their skills counted a lot more frequently than you will, or definitely artistic. You do the pass or the routine, you get the score, you move on, and the coach sort of deals with the intricacies of it and then just tells you what to do. And it's an argument of, would you say that's better, or would you say knowing what you're doing and knowing why you're doing it is better?
I think it's purely dependent on the person. Like I know some people, they don't like to know anything. They just want to these are my passes. This is what I'm going to do. Coach, tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. Whereas, other people, whether they're just curious or it helps them in the head, they want to know what they're doing, why they're doing it, what other people are doing, what they can do to, compete against these other people. I'm kind of one of those people, I'm just curious about everything. I like to know everything. Yeah, it just interests me. Whereas, other people, it might mess with them in their head if they're like, oh, I should have done this, or I could do this, or whatever. They just want to know, this is what I'm going to do. Coach, tell me what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. But yeah, I purely just think it's dependent on the person, how they are in their heads when it comes to competitions.
Fair enough. That makes sense. Last question. What do you think others can learn from you?
I guess to just have fun with it. Everyone that knows me knows that I'm not that serious when it comes to most things. So even in the competitions, I'm going out there and I'm just having fun. I do the sport because I find it fun. I like doing flips, like I said. I think, you should just enjoy it, and whatever the outcome is what it is. Go back if you want to do better, train more and everything. Literally just enjoy it. Go with the flow.
Nice. Thank you very much for coming on. I've enjoyed it. I've definitely learned something. So yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for listening to the Game of Gymnastics podcast. Leave a like if you enjoyed, follow for more, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.